Okay, just checking whether we've got everybody before we start. Thank you for being patient, everybody that was waiting in the waiting room. And I think people will continue to join us. So we will make a start. This session will be recorded. So if anybody joins late, they'll be able to kind of catch the beginning later as well. So hello, welcome, and welcome to London Business School. As I mentioned before, we are delighted to be hosting this session tonight, sharing some information about London Business School, the MBA program, admissions process, and answering any questions that you might have about the school or your journey through the application process tonight. So let's get started. First of all, my name is Charlotte, and I am the Associate Director of our External Partnerships and Scholarships here at LBS, and we're delighted to have City of Lane Africa as one of our external partnerships. And I also oversee some of the scholarships here. I'm also joined by my colleague, Lena, here this evening. So Lena, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, we're very excited once again to be part of this series of MBA for Africa events with Lane. This is the second year in a row that we take part of these sessions, and we think this is a great initiative. We're very proud to be part of it. There is so much talent in Africa, and events like this give us the opportunity to meet many candidates like yourselves, and to tell you a little bit more about London Business School and our MBA program as well. So my name is Lina Ramos. I'm one of the recruitment and admissions manager for the full-time MBA program. And in our team, we have we look after different regions. So one of the candidates of the regions that I look after are candidates based in Africa. So yeah, once again, it's really great to be here, and we look forward to learning more about you and to hear from you, your questions, and to introduce you as well to our current students who will be joining us for the Q&A.
Thank you, Lena. So just to give you an overview of everything that we would like to go through with you. First of all, I am going to kick off with some insights into the school and the MBA program itself. We have 11 degree programs at London Business School, but we understand that most of you want to hear about the MBA program. If you were interested in any of the other degree programs, please just reach out to Lena and I, and we'll be able to help you and put you in touch with students from that program too. Lena is then going to go through some admissions insights. I'll cover a little bit about things you can think about while you're doing your preparation. And we, of course, are going to talk about funding options. We understand that business school is a huge investment of your time and also financially a large investment. And so we want to make sure that any questions there are answered. And finally, we're going to open up to questions from all of you through the Q&A, and I am delighted that we have two MBA students joining us this evening. We have Zanzeko, who is in the MBA 2024 class, and so just started with us in August 2022. And we also have Ubi, who is in our MBA 2023 class, and therefore has just started her second year of the program. I'm sure that flew by. So let me hand over to you both to briefly introduce yourselves before we get started with the presentation.
Thanks, Charlotte. I'll introduce myself quick first. As Charlotte mentioned, I'm Zanzeko Kanyile. I'm part of the MBA 2024 class. I come from South Africa, and I have a background in finance and accounting. And that is the industry that I'm looking to recruit into while I'm on the MBA program.
Cool, thanks, Charlotte. I'll go next. So I'm Ubi. I am an MBA 2023 candidate. So as Charlotte said, starting my second year. I am Namibian, but have lived in London for 5 years. Before the MBA, I was at Deloitte in audit and then corporate finance. During the summer break, where you can do an internship, I interned at Goldman Sachs in investment banking. And now I'm actually in New York on exchange at Columbia Business School until December. Then I'll go back to LBS next year and finish off my second year. So very happy to be here today and answer all your questions.
Thank you both. What I'll mention now is that there is a chat box that I believe you should all be able to access. So if you have questions already, or as we go through the presentation, please do start to put your questions in there, and we can get to as many of them as possible as soon as we finish the presentation. We'll share some contact details, or feel free to reach out via LinkedIn following today as well, so that if we don't get to answer your question, we can do so later on. So first of all, I thought it'd be useful to talk a little bit about motivations to apply. You've already heard from Sanzeko and Ubi about their motivations to apply, what they were doing pre-MBA, and maybe got an idea from Ubi, from what she's been doing so far, about where she might want to be. And you'll see through speaking to different students and alumni of the MBA program that everybody has different motivations to apply. There are different reasons as to why people do an MBA program. Some are kind of very traditional, and often people are looking for something that's a little bit more untraditional, and in maybe one of the more diverse sectors following their MBA program. And that's all fine. So I think here on the left, there are three things that most, or a couple of things that most people are looking to do through their MBA program, especially at London Business School. So one thing is to really develop global perspectives. We have a very international class here at LBS, and so we find that most people looking to join us are looking towards London Business School in comparison to any other school, because they are really looking for that access to a very international network, and grow and develop their network, which will support them for the rest of their personal and professional lives. So that kind of describes global perspectives and enhanced network a little. And I would say the other thing that most people are looking to do is develop their leadership skills. So you can see that they're here too, and that's both through the program itself, through various core courses and electives, but also possible just through extracurricular activities, such as if you were to lead a student club at London Business School, you might be leading an executive committee of up to 80 people. So there are plenty of opportunities to really develop those leadership skills through the MBA program too. Then people are, of course, doing an MBA for their career. So they're either looking to transition their career, like I mentioned before, or perhaps looking to accelerate the career path that they are on. And finally, others have entrepreneurial ambitions, and therefore are looking to either launch their business following the MBA, or even during the MBA, or perhaps looking to gather all of those skills and understanding of entrepreneurship for further down the line in their career. So if any of those things sound like you, then you're probably in the right place, and we are looking forward to talking more. So I wanted to talk a little bit now about your research before submitting an application to the MBA program. This is really important, and we can't stress this enough. We want to see through everybody's application that they have done some research. And I'm going to talk through some of the best ways to do that. But being on this call right now is research. You're going to learn more about the program, and you're going to have an opportunity to hear from some current students and learn more about the best parts of the program for them. So first of all, things that we recommend that you might want to research and understand a little bit more about. We think that these are some of the things that make LBS great, and a top choice in terms of where you can do your MBA program. So you might want to research more into our world-class faculty. You might have a specific idea or interest in mind. So I don't know, for example, let's say that you're really interested in marketing or finance or entrepreneurship, and you might want to understand who would be teaching you in the classroom. So we recommend that you do research more into our faculty. I can tell you that all of our professors have a commitment to research while teaching. So simultaneously to them teaching in the classroom, they are researching so they can bring cutting edge research to the classroom for you. I mentioned speaking to students and alumni. We have an outstanding peer group at London Business School. I'm going to dive into that and what that looked like within the MBA 2024 class a little bit more. But not only will you have your peer group within your class, but you will have peer group across all of the degree programs that I mentioned as well. And so we have, for example, shared electives. So when you come to choose your electives at the end of your first year and into your second year, you won't only be alongside MBA students, but also those maybe studying Masters in Finance or the Sloan, which is for senior executives. So you have large exposure to a great peer group and of course, an alumni network too. Excuse me. One of the great and best things about London Business School is our location. We're located right in the heart of London. And so if you are looking to be in a place which is not only well connected to the rest of the world, there are 3 international airports in the city. Our students definitely take advantage of that and travel a lot. But also to be a part of London and of course a hub for financial services and many other business services as well as a great startup scene, a great tech scene, luxury and fashion, for example, and so many other diversified sectors as well. So really a great place to be, not only in terms of study and business, but also in terms of your personal life and all of the fun things that you want to get up to for your MBA program too. And global mindset I touched upon a little bit before, but we truly believe that this is something that we provide to every student that joins London Business School. So I said I'd talk a little bit more about that outstanding peer group. So for the MBA 2024 class who have just joined us, it was made of 509 students. Each year, the MBA class is somewhere around 500 students. You'll see it go up and down a little bit each year, and that's because we would never want to turn away a great applicant. And so we are not too stuck to that 500 number. 91% of the class is international, and I believe there were 66 nationalities within that, within the 509 students. So we truly are international. And I mean, there are, of course, some regions which we have more students from than others. I would say that Africa is a region that we are committed to growing our presence and representation within the class. We'll talk a little bit more about scholarships and ways that we show our commitment to that, but we're really happy to have partnerships such as this with City of Lane and be here speaking to all of you because we would love to increase the representation of students that come from Africa into the MBA program. The average age of the class is 29, and that really just goes hand in hand with the average years of work experience. We're not reviewing your age in any way through the admissions process, but we are looking at your work experience. And within the class, that usually ranges from anywhere from 2 years of postgraduate work experience all the way through to maybe sort of 12, 13 years, something like that. So we will review that and happy to kind of review your CV or LinkedIn profile before that if you would like some feedback prior to applying. And again, we'll tell you how to do that later. There were 37% of women in the class. We would love to achieve gender parity within the class. And again, we have various initiatives to work on that. Scholarships for women, of course, being a big one. And finally, the average GMAT score we're often asked, so we put it here for you, is 702. So what are we looking for in a student? I think that these are kind of 3 key things that you may already assume would be looking for. It's really difficult. There is no mold as to who we're looking for in the MBA program because everybody brings their own story and we're looking for that diversity. But these are some common traits or themes that we are looking for through your application. We want people who can come and be collaborative, and I'm sure that Zanzeko and also Ubi would speak to those opportunities within the classroom and outside of the classroom of how we're expecting students to be collaborative with one another. Also self-awareness. By this, we mean people who know where they are, maybe what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are, and where they want to be. So you'll notice in the application, and Lena will talk to essays shortly, that there's a space where we're asking what you want to do in terms of your aspirations post MBA, and we're looking for an element of self-awareness there. So, you know, if you want a complete career transition, maybe change region, sector, function, then we're looking for somebody who's done a little bit of research into that and has some awareness as to what that's going to take. And finally, global mindset, I've spoken to already. So I would recommend going and downloading the MBA brochure. There's a picture of it here on the screen. You'll be able to access it through the website. I would also recommend downloading the employment report if you are interested in understanding where our students go immediately after the program. But this just gives you a run through of what the 2 years look like. So prior to any student joining us, there's some online preparation, usually around 3 modules, which we expect to take an online prior to starting. Then once you start, all students must be in London for the duration of the program. We start in the first term, which is where Zanzeka is right now, is business fundamentals. It's probably the most intense of terms throughout the MBA program. We really are teaching you all business fundamentals in that first term. Then we move into term 2 and 3, which are tailored core courses. If you haven't done much research into the MBA program at LBS yet, I would say that one of the key things that makes us stand out in comparison to any other program would be the flexibility of the MBA program. It's a 2-year program, and that really allows you time to be very explorative within your studies and outside of the classroom too. And we want to encourage that through the program. So we allow you to tailor a lot of the program yourself. Options for summer include internships. So you heard how Ubi did hers at Goldman Sachs. But of course, there are many internships available. And there's also another option, which is entrepreneurship summer school. Or alternatively, you might be interested in just taking a break, which some students do too. When you come back for year 2, it just says here flexible options, and that is because it truly is that flexible. It's very much a blank canvas. We give you lots of options, and you choose how you feel your second year. Nobody's second year will look the same. Mandatory parts are that you complete your 10 to 12 electives and that you go on a global experience. But otherwise, some students will take further internships. Some students will really focus on club life and maybe leading some clubs. And there are many options as well as those as well. Finally, I mentioned it is a full-time 2-year program, but there are early exit points at 15 and 18 months also, if you were looking for a shorter program. So just to wrap up, in terms of getting to know us, as I mentioned, you can go on the website, download a brochure, download some interesting content, as well as kind of read other student stories. Speak to alumni. You'll be able to find some profiles on the website. You might also want to use LinkedIn and reach out. We have around 100 MBA student ambassadors listed on the website, so please do have a look for somebody maybe who is from a similar professional background to you, or maybe of the same nationality to you, that you would love to reach out to and start to speak to them. And also research clubs. We have an excellent Africa club on campus. I'm sure our lovely guests will be able to speak to that tonight. So I won't speak too much on it, but where I've mentioned attend an event, I did want to mention an event that the Africa Club are hosting next week in collaboration with the Wheeler Network, which I'll also, Wheeler Institute, sorry, which I'll also speak to, which is how to fund sustainable growth in Africa. So if you were interested in an event that is specifically focused on Africa and quite topical, then please do find the information on that. Personally, I found it on Instagram, so you should be able to find it there. But otherwise, we'll make sure that we get that sent out to you in an email. So I mentioned social media. We have a fantastic blog, so you can look through that for application tips, more information about the community. There are many blogs posted week by week. Think at LBS is where you can find all the latest research, but the Wheeler Institute I wanted to focus on because we have 4 institutes at London Business School. The Wheeler Institute is just one of them. It specifically focuses on developing markets and research within those developing markets. So it may be of interest to all of you. There's a lot there in terms of a lot of content on their part of the website as well about some of the research around Africa as a region. Okay, I feel like that was as fast as I could go because I'm very aware of time and I'm sure there are lots of questions. So I am happy to now hand over to Lena, who is going to talk you through admissions insights.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Charlotte. And welcome to all of you who joined us a little bit later in the session. I know there were a few issues, so hopefully some of you have been able to hear some of the great insights that Charlotte talked already about in terms of the school, the research. But if not, maybe you arrived on time to listen a little bit more about the admissions process, admissions requirements and timelines as well. So if you want to go to the next slide, Charlotte, please. So this is just a brief overview of what the application process looks like when you submit an application for London Business School. The whole process itself is made of various different pieces. So you would be submitting an application which will go directly into the admissions committee for an initial review. Once your application is reviewed, only a certain group will move to the interview stage. The interview will take place with our very own MBA alumni, hopefully and ideally in the country where you're based. In most cases, in person again, but then depending on the circumstances, interviews can only take place virtually as well. As I mentioned, our very own MBA alumni will be the ones who conduct the interviews, and us in the admissions team, we do our best to match you with someone who maybe works in the same industry as you currently do, or maybe with someone with background or with working in an industry where you would like to go post-MBA. Basically, we like to see the interview process as a two-way communication, where obviously the alumni will want to find information about you in terms of your professional career, your achievements, and your goals as well, but it's also an opportunity for you to find out a little bit more about their experience, about how they use their MBA to reach to where they are right now. There is also a video component as part of the interview process, so you will be asked to complete 2 video questions with a platform called Kira Talent. This is simply because the admissions committee won't get the chance to meet everybody. So this is really a great opportunity for us in the team to get a little bit more insights and to bring to life all your applications as well. So after you complete the interview with our alumni and after you complete the video questions, your application will go back to the admissions committee together with the interview feedback from the alumni, together with the video questions that you submitted, and they will do a second review and make final decisions. Charlotte, do you want to go to the next slide, please? So we have 3 rounds of applications, and here you can see the deadlines for the new cycle, which started not long ago in September for the MBA 2025 class. So you can see that the first round application deadline was in September, the second one is coming up in January, and the third one is in March time. We hope to give you opportunities to apply at the time so that you can maybe apply to several schools, and because you have all the deadlines advertise. Maybe you can set your expectations in terms of when you hear from schools, and maybe this will give you the opportunity to maybe move to an earlier round or to a later round, so that maybe you plan and you can have all the decisions around the same time. When it comes to rounds, I often get asked, which round should I apply for? And the answer is very simple: apply when you are ready. Do not use applying in different rounds to increase your chances. We have 3 rounds for a reason, and we will make offers in every round. The whole applying to a business school is a very personal journey. So all the research that Charlotte mentioned before, apply when you finish your application, when you think you know us, and when you think you know yourself well enough. I'm sure that our students will be able to share a little bit more about their journey when completing the application form. You will have a lot of in-depth thinking about yourself. You have to think a lot about your motivation, your successes. How do you like to be perceived, and what do you hope to achieve next as well? So in terms of requirements, we ask you to submit a 1-page CV together with your online application form, in which, once again, you will help us to get to know you a little bit better. So you can talk a little bit more about your current responsibilities, reasons for taking a role, reasons for leaving a role. When we are building the class, we are not just looking for candidates who are coming for the next 2 years of the MBA. We ideally are looking for alumni for life. And that's why it's important that you spend some time completing the application form. It's great, obviously, to learn about your professional achievements, but I was doing an event not long ago, and a candidate told me that he read online that the application form is actually an extended essay that not many candidates use. So make sure that you spend some time to complete the form. Tell us a little bit more about your personal interests. That gives your application a little bit more of a personal touch. You're not just who you are because of your professional background. It's interesting to learn a little bit more, what you do outside work. How do you like to contribute to the community? If you have any international experience, maybe talk a little bit more about that. So yeah, make sure that you spend a little bit of time completing the application form. We also require 1 professional reference, and I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail later on. We require an essay, and there is 1 mandatory and 1 optional, and I will touch a little bit more on that in the next slides. But you also have to submit a GMAT or a GRE. There is absolutely no preference in terms of which test you submit. But then obviously I think it's important that you know that there is an average score. So we give you that information so that you have a baseline, but we do accept a range, and we do take a holistic approach. So it's not all about the GMAT and the GRE. And you also have to submit your university transcripts as a whole package with the application form. So in terms of the referee, there are usually a few questions. So if you go to the next slide, Charlotte, please, that we often get asked. So who makes a good referee? How much weight does the referee job title carry? And what if you're not really planning to tell your current employer that you're going to apply for an MBA? All of those are very valid questions. And just to cover them quickly, Who makes a good referee? Someone who knows you well on a professional setting. How much weight does the job title carry? I think it's very important for you to understand that who you choose will be someone who will be willing to spend some time to write a good recommendation about yourselves. So obviously, if that's the CEO of the company and they know you that well and they have the time to write in depth about, a good assessment about you, that's great. But that's not always the case. So you don't always have to choose someone because of the rank. Ideally, you want to choose someone because they know you well. Ideally, again, you want to maybe take them for a coffee and explain what is it that you want to do post-MBA. So ideally, what they write matches with what you put in your application. And last but not least, we completely understand that you're not always going to disclose your plans to your current employer. So you can always choose a colleague that maybe you've worked with over the years. Maybe you can choose a client as well, or maybe you can choose a previous manager. So there are plenty of options, but the reference is an important part of the application. So make sure that you do some thinking and that you consider your choices as well. So now if we go into the essays, the essays are a big part of the application. So make sure that you spend some time doing your preparation, tailoring your essays and editing them. So in terms of the preparation, think about the story you want to tell the admissions committee and the message that you want to deliver. Don't underestimate, just like in the application form, in the essays, do not underestimate the amount of time that it will take you to write it. Start early and think before you write. Customization, and customize your essays. Tailor it to LBS, or tailor it to the school you're applying to. Be thoughtful. Do not use a generic essay because that really comes across when reviewing applications. And be sure to answer the actual question, which is one of the common mistakes. You get focused on telling your story, of telling your achievements, but maybe sometimes candidates forget to answer the actual question, which is, how is your prior experience combined with the LBS MBA going to help you to achieve your goals? And last but not least, the edits. Leverage your friends and your colleagues who have applied maybe to business schools before. Ask them to read your essays, proofread, so that you can, I don't know, maybe catch errors and make sure that what you're writing makes sense to someone else that maybe are not that familiar with what you do or what you want to do in the future. And then quickly before we continue, there is a second essay that's part of the application as well. The second essay is optional, and some candidates use it to maybe tell a personal story that has shaped their personality or character. Some others use it to maybe address a career gap. Some others want to address maybe a low GMAT or a GRE. And others use it to expand as in how they plan to contribute to the LBS community, or maybe what clubs they would like to join as well. Some candidates simply don't use it, and that's absolutely fine. That's why the second option, the second essay is optional. My recommendation will be to look at your application as a whole and analyze if there is something missing that you could fit into that essay that will tell the admissions committee something interesting about you. I wouldn't use it to repeat something that maybe is already on your CV or that you cover during the application. So those are maybe different ways in terms of how you can use that optional essay. And finally, before I wrap up and we finally can move to the Q&A, I wanted to cover funding options, as this is an area that is perhaps not that well researched by candidates, but it is very important. You wouldn't want to go through the whole application process and then having to decline your place maybe because of funding reasons. Do not rely on one source. Look into several options, as you can see in the slide. Maybe look into loan schemes. We have partnerships with Prodigy, Future Finance, so they're probably good options. There's also the savings or sponsorships. Around 20% of the class usually comes with some sort of a sponsorship from their employers. So make sure that you look at that option if maybe that is an option for you. And we're proud to have a modest but a growing portfolio of scholarships as well. The majority of our MBA scholarships are merit-based, and they celebrate the achievement and the quality that you've demonstrated throughout the admissions process. And that's why earlier on I say, apply when you're ready and when you feel like your application is strong, because not only that is going to increase your chances of admissions, but that is also going to increase your chances of receiving an award as well. We have scholarships available for candidates in different regions, in different industries as well. We have the Tech Disrupt, we have scholarships for candidates coming from the military, from healthcare, and these really help us to support diverse representation within the LBS community, and also help us to build the breadth of experience that students learn from while in the classroom as well. As most of you are probably either based or from different African countries, I wanted to highlight that at LBS we have a large amount of scholarships set aside for African candidates. So these awards are once again based on merit and financial needs. This is because we recognize the importance and the benefits of having a diverse student body. And like I said at the start, there is a great pool of talent in Africa that might not consider a business school because of funding. So the scholarships on offer, and that in my opinion, you should keep an eye or maybe head over our website and read a little bit more about, are the Mo Ibrahim Scholarship, the Gary Lapner Scholarship. There are a few African scholarships that are awards which you will be considered automatically and there is no need to apply. But there are a few awards which will require application. And this includes the Black in Business Scholarship, which is a still fairly new scholarship and is aimed at those who show commitment to racial equality and those who are willing to support the Black in Business Club at LBS. There is also the Laidlaw Scholarship for women, and this is set aside for exceptional candidates who might not be able to afford business school otherwise. And finally, there's also the Romba Scholarship, which is another award that you would need to apply for. And this scholarship is open to influential candidates within the LGBTQ+ community. So I think that that's it from me. I'm just going to head over to Charlotte so she can moderate the Q&A, and we're going to stick around to answer any questions. But once again, I wanted to say thank you to our current students who are joining us here today. This is what is great about the LBS community, that we will always have students who are willing to connect with candidates, to share their experience. So I'm really looking forward to hearing a little bit more about what Ubi and Sasenko have to share with the attendees. They're quite active in the community already. I see them in events, and I like the fact that, you know, they both from first year and second year, so they'll be able to share different perspectives as well.
Thank you, Lena, for that thorough overview of the admissions process. I hope that was useful. We have had some questions through on the chat box already. I've managed to respond to most of them, I think, but I guess I would recommend, there were a few that came up around scholarships. Yes, we also have plenty of scholarships specifically for women. I would recommend heading to the scholarship webpage to be able to then look through all of the scholarships available. And what I'll do before the end of the call is try and grab the link for that webpage and pop it in the chat box so you'll be able to check it out. But can I ask if anybody's got any questions for our students to start to send those through on the chat box now. So the first question has come through, so thank you very much, which is, how did you find mentors and learn how to become a competitive applicant for the MBA program? Now, just before this call, we were having a chat and Ubi mentioned that she had a chat with Sanseko in the admissions process. So we've got the perfect example of this on the call. So maybe you could both share your examples of how you kind of managed to connect with the community prior to submitting your application.
Yeah, very happy to take that question. So I think for me, I get this question very often. You know, should I do an MBA? Does it make sense right now? And I think, as Charlotte and Lena mentioned, it's a very personal journey that you need to go on. And the MBA is not only financially costly, but it also takes up a lot of your time. So I think doing that research, really thinking about, you know, what you want to do after the MBA, where you are right now, do you really think this makes sense, is super important. And as I said, Nanzeko and I had several conversations, I think 1 or 2, about, you know, the application process. Do I think RBS is a good fit? And not just with her, with other potential applicants as well. So really reaching out to the student ambassadors, trying to understand, you know, what is RBS about? How is it? Does it fit your personality? What you want to achieve is super important. And then your applications, you know, it's not just something that you do overnight. It's something that you start with and you keep going back to it because maybe you think, no, I need to change that. And yeah, I guess it's a very genuine piece of work that you want to submit, and make sure that it's good, I think.
Thanks, Ubi and Sanseko.
Thanks, Charlotte. I think just to echo on Ubi's points that she mentioned, I think the one resource that you can utilize at LBS are the students ambassadors, and you can find students ambassadors from your home country online, and you can reach out to them. And I found the ambassadors very helpful with my application process, just to get a better idea as to what the school offers and if it would be, you know, most complementary for the things that I want to do in my career. And in addition to the student ambassadors, I also attended webinars like some of you are attending today. I think those were very informative, and the questions that I had would be, you know, thoroughly answered, and I found that very helpful. And then I think the third resource that I found very helpful in my application process are people who've gone through the MBA journey before. And I think they, you know, give you a very different perspective to what you would find online and on webinars. So you'd be able to get more of a holistic idea as to the merits of, you know, applying to business school and really understanding how you can make the most out of the journey. So I think those 3 things for me were really helpful in terms of like the mentorship aspect of applying to business school.
Thank you. We have another question in the chat box, which is in terms of the school or program fit, what were the things that stood out with you with London Business School in comparison to other European schools? I mentioned a few in my presentation, but it would be really nice to hear your personal perspectives on that and, you know, why you chose LBS in ahead of the European schools.
So I'll go. I only applied to LBS, I'll be honest, and I was very lucky to get it. But I don't think you should take it. It is a big risk to take. And I guess why LBS, I started engaging very early. I attended the open days. Everyone I spoke to was, you know, I left that conversation feeling this is where I belong, where I want to come. Another thing was that it's in London. I knew I wanted to try investment banking, and actually being in the city, being able to, you know, meet with the banks that are there, LBS alumni that are in those banks was super important for me. And then just, you know, it's such an international, multicultural city. It's so international, like you can travel every weekend if you wanted to. It's easy access to most cities. That really appealed to me. And yeah, I think, you know, London's just such a great city to be in. And I thought I don't want to leave because I was already there. But more importantly was what I wanted to do after or during the MBA as an internship, and after the MBA that really swayed me to just, you know, apply for LBS. And then it was also all the other things that they offered, you know, the global business experience, the student club. So I didn't mention, but I'm the co-president of the Africa Club this year. So if you have any questions on, you know, the Africa Club and what events we're going to have, reach out. But it was, you know, the holistic thing that, and there were certain things that I wanted to achieve during business school, and internship aside, but more, you know, leadership, meeting, broadening my network. And I knew that LBS, based on conversations and what I had seen, was gonna, you know, tick all those boxes for me.
Yeah, I think in addition to, you know, location that, you know, Ubi mentioned, as well as like what the program offers and recruitment, I think another thing for me that stood out with LBS is that it's a 2-year program. So when I was doing research on business school, I realized that it's like too fun and too much of a good time to only do it for a year. So I was, you know, targeting a program in Europe, ideally, that is 2 years. And most of them are a year long. But yeah, I just wanted to ensure that I can have like a full MBA experience over the 2 years, be able to do a summer internship, and also have the opportunity to do some electives as well during that process. So I think for me, in addition to being in the heart of London, I think for me, just like the length of the program and what it offers really stood out for me as well.
Excellent, thank you. I think it's really nice to hear some more personal perspectives to give context to, you know, the many reasons why people do choose London Business School, but to hear your specific thoughts. Another great question in the chat box is, did you face any challenges during the application process? And if so, how were you able to navigate your way through? We often hear how GMAT or GRE is someone's biggest challenge or takes lots of time, and Lena did a great job of talking about how we review very holistically. So yes, of course, put your time into GMAT or GRE, but do I guess make sure that you put as much energy into all of the other parts of the application, because they're just as important. But yeah, interested to hear from either of you. What was a real sticking point in the application for you, and what did you do to support yourself to get through that?
Sure. For me, I think in addition to the entrance exams, it was managing relationships where I was working. I think that was a very difficult process for me, especially because I applied in round 1, and I kind of knew in December that I would be joining the program in August of this year. And yeah, I felt very conflicted as to, do I keep it to myself, or, you know, do I inform my team early on? But I decided to just let them know in January. And yeah, it was a huge relief, but I do think that's also a skill that you develop during the application process is just to manage the various relationships that you have, ensure that you don't burn bridges while you apply, because as much as you're applying to business school, the 2 years will be over and then you'll be back in, the professional world. So I think it's also quite important for you to consider, your colleagues and the people that you work with while applying. It's very difficult. I think for me, a piece of advice I could share is, just try and be as transparent as you can during the process, so that you or any of the people that you work with currently don't get disappointed along the way.
Yeah, I think Charlotte said it. So my biggest sticking or hurdle was definitely the GMAT. Working and studying for something that you've last saw in high school when you were 18 years old is pretty hard. I think you need to realize that you need to put time aside for this and don't leave everything till the last minute. They clearly state, when the deadlines are. So if you're someone who's not strong at quants and verbal, then really just put the time aside. It's going to be tough, but it's, once it's done, once you get that good score, you're going to be very happy and you don't have to do it again. So really focus on that. And then, save time as well for the other parts of the application process, because it's not just the GMAT, right? It's the application itself. And then it's those 2 essays that you have to write. So really just making the time for it and knowing that maybe you'll have to sacrifice some things like social or travel or, whatever it might be. But biggest piece of advice, don't leave it till the last minute. Put time aside for this GMAT because it is quite difficult. I think a lot of people struggle with that the most. And then once it's done, it's over, and you want to go for that really good score to be competitive in the not just application but also scholarship process.
Thanks, Ubi, and that's a nice segue into one of the questions, which is about scholarships again. So Kenneth is asking if we know of any scholarship opportunities outside of those offered by LBS. There absolutely will be some, and I would recommend maybe doing a bit of good old Googling and doing a bit of research. Some will be listed on our website, but we are aware that there are constantly more being launched year on year, and so it's definitely worth just checking because I can't promise that our website will always be completely up to date. Do either of you, Ubi or Sanseko, have any? Did you look at any other scholarships outside of LBS that you're aware of?
Yeah, there is one called the TY Danjuma scholarship. It's targeted specifically for Africans that are intending to apply to the top 10 MBA programs in the world, but it's used to supplement your tuition fees, so it can assist with your living costs. And you can just search on a site called Opportunities for Africans. They usually share scholarships, fellowships, and like internship opportunities specifically for young professionals in Africa. And you'll be able to find information on the TY Danjuma scholarship there as well.
Brilliant, that's really helpful. Thank you so much. So yes, do all of that research. Lena mentioned how some scholarships do require an application. I put the link, you'll maybe just need to scroll up the chat a little bit, but through to the funding page, which then has a link through to all scholarships. When you go through each scholarship, you'll be able to filter them based on your nationality as well. So anything that you'll be eligible for should come up. Just take some time to go through them all because there are a lot, but it's probably worth your time. A couple to mention that definitely require an additional application are the Laidlaw Women's Leadership Fund, which both our students here are a part of, and also the Black in Business scholarships. And so do have a look at those applications. In terms of when you apply, you can apply at any point from when you submit your program application as well through to when you get that offer for the program, and we'll make sure that as a applicant and an admit, we'll be keep in touch with you with these kind of opportunities and encouraging you to apply. So we won't let you miss the boat, so don't worry about that. Okay, there was another great question. There's a lot to get involved in during the MBA program. Yes, there is. So in terms of clubs and extracurriculars, how do you manage your time, and how did you decide on which classes to take and which clubs to join and so on? Ubi, maybe you want to kick us off as you're leading the Africa Club this year.
Yeah, sure, happy to. You're right, there is a lot to get involved in, and I think the most important thing is just to know what you want to get out of the MBA and kind of keep that focus, because you can get lost in so much. And I think what I did, you can join all the clubs because they've got so many social events or career events that you want to get involved in. That doesn't mean that you need to actually put time aside to be on the Exco. And the Exco is like the team. I'm part of the Exco of Africa Club, the team that organize all these events. So that does take up a lot of your time. So if you don't have the time to do that, just join all the clubs so that you can, get involved in the events, but you don't have to actually plan the events. I think we were told, the general thing is people do is 2 Excos at max, just because as Charlotte said, your first term at business school is super demanding. And especially if you can, want to recruit for investment banking or consulting, that happens immediately when you join the MBA. So you kind of want to give yourself time to do that, but also socialize and pass your classes. So, there is a lot to get involved in, but just be aware that, what are you there for? What are you trying to get out of this? And now that I'm in second year, I've got so much more time. I've interned at Goldman. I'm only taking like 3 classes now. So I'm very flexible, and that's why I can take on the Africa Club co-president role and deliver on that. So yeah, there's a lot to get involved in, but just stay focused as well.
Thanks, Ubi. Sounds like anything to add? I know this first term is a little intense, to say the least, at times. So how are you managing it all right now?
Yeah, it certainly is quite an intense first term at the moment, with all the business fundamental courses and the recruitment process for the structured recruiting, IB and consulting will kick off soon. So I think in terms of how I'm managing all of the different commitments is, just listing down and prioritizing all the tasks that I need to do. I think right now the academics is quite an important component as well. But, just echoing what Ubi said, I think it is important to just remind yourself why you're at business school and the main things that you want to get out of the program. So I think it's just very important to remind yourself of those objectives, especially when the schedule does become quite intense. But yeah, I must say that it is certainly as intense as people have said it is. But it's also a lot of learning as well, and it stretches you a lot. So you definitely do become better from that whole process.
Thank you. And hopefully a lot of fun too, as well as hard work and learning.
Most definitely.
That's good to hear. Okay, well, we have run over a little bit, and apologies for that. I know we had a late start and some confusion at the start, so just wanted to make sure we got through all of the questions on the chat. So hopefully we managed to do that. If you do have any additional questions, we would love to have conversations with you, either one-to-one or small group. So after the session, we will make sure that we send you an invite to meet with our recruitment team for the MBA program, and they'll be able to meet with you in a smaller group and you can have your questions answered. If you're still preparing your application and you'd rather take us up on that closer to the time of submission, when you've got through a little bit more of it, then that's absolutely fine. In the meantime, why not connect with some ambassadors and get to know the community a little bit better. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Lena, for joining as well. Thank you, Sanseko and Ubi, for being here and for your commitment to supporting us to increase that representation from Africa, as I mentioned earlier in the call. And thank you so much to all of our attendees, and of course to City of Lane for being here and helping with the organisation. We are really excited, and as Lena mentioned earlier, mostly proud to be partnered with you guys. So we hope you found this session useful. Take care, best of luck with your applications, and please do just keep in touch and reach out if we can help with anything at all. Have a lovely rest of your evening, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.